First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Mike, in my early 60s, and I am semi-retired. I have always enjoyed dressing and for a very long time have realized that I am transgendered. My story begins many years before my birth. My mother was born in the early 1900s and when she was about 16 started modeling for a local Chelsea sculptor. This was very tastefully done and her younger sister used to attend with her as her chaperone. She was an absolute stunner. One of the most important statues she modeled for was Atlanta, at the foot of the steps at Albert Bridge on the Chelsea Embankment. I am very proud of this period of my mother's life and also jealous of her beauty. She was married in her early 20s and I was her second born in 1942. She desperately wanted a girl as her firstborn was a boy. She made no secret of the fact that she hoped that I would have been born a girl but made no attempt to dress me any more feminine than my brothers. She had 2 more sons and then gave up. I was always her favorite, possibly because I was the smallest. We were a very close family. I do not think that my mother's desires had any bearing on my transgenderism. I believe that the transgendered are born that way and not made. Not that I mind either way. I was always slight and the smallest in my classes going through school. I am not terribly masculine or not really been into sports or physical activities. At primary school I related with the girls far more than the boys and had many girlfriends. When I left primary school, went to an all-boys school. I didn't fit in terribly well, but made a few friends and was relatively settled. I was very young when I started dressing, probably only 5 or 6, and used to wear my cousin's knickers and skirts any chance I got. I didn't understand it, but even then got mental satisfaction. This has carried on intermittently ever since. I used to kid myself that I was just a crossdresser, but deep down I knew that it was much more. Through my teens I envied young girls and wished I could be more like them. The feelings gradually increased, but I managed to push them away when I met the girl who was to become my wife in. I was 18 and she 16. We had a fairly active sex life, nothing adventurous but enjoyable just the same. We married in 1963 when I was 21. I never told her of my secret, much to my regret. We were fairly happy and I managed to dress up occasionally when she was out at work. I did shift work, so was at home some days when she was working. When we had been married for 15 years or so I plucked up courage and told her of my desires to dress. She allowed me to for a while but never really accepted it, and soon I stopped it, even though I carried on in secret. She caught me several times with the ensuing rose. After a while, whenever we had an argument or any falling out, she started throwing it back in my face and often becomes rude and abusive. However, as I had fathered 4 children, it was not possible to do anything about it. I had considered leaving my wife and children and changing over, but my sense of responsibility and deep love of my family excluded me from deserting them. Also, my wife was prone to being rather strict with the children and losing her temper and becoming spiteful. Her mother treated her in a similar way, but more severe, bordering on abuse, and so I suppose it was inevitable that she would follow suit. I hate to think of how she would have treated them if I had left home. I decided that when all of my children had married and left home, would be the time to do it. Unfortunately, when the last was due to leave home, my wife started to develop serious pains in her legs and back. I decided to put on hold leaving until she was well. After a couple of years, a large tumor was discovered in her spine, fortunately benign. Urgent surgery had to be carried out. The tumor was so serious that removal caused nerve damage that has left her disabled. I have become her carer, and any plans to leave home and live the life I so deeply desired had to be forgotten, or so I thought. However, being transgendered is not so easily cast aside or forgotten. It starts to take over all waking hours and thoughts, and you cannot look at pretty girls without being jealous, wishing that it was you. I am under 5 foot 6 inches in height, and over the last 10 years or so I have put on a lot of weight. Probably through depression as much as anything, where my weight reached 15 stone by about the middle of last year. I decided that I must do something about it. 9 months later I am down to 12.5 stone, and my target weight is to get down to less than 10.5 stone. Also at the same time I parted company with my employers and started up my own company with my son, which we run from home. This means I get out of the house even less and has increased the feeling of being trapped. Over the last couple of years the feelings have got worse until recently I have started, secretly on a hormone regime, for comfort as much as anything. Hence, one of the reasons for losing weight. I was probably kidding myself that I was taking them for comfort. It obviously went much deeper and was probably a subconscious desire to change gender. I started on hormones in September 1993 when I obtained 10 packets of Loestrin 20, which contained 20 micrograms of ethinyloestradiol and 1 milligram norethisterone, which lasted until the beginning of February 2004. I now know that I was taking insufficient dosage, as these had little effect, apart from some increased nipple sensitivity and some reduction in the size of my testicles. I was not able to obtain any more and purchased a phytohormone regime from Transformation. This was very expensive and did not even maintain what development that had started. I found a site on the internet where I was able to download a regime that was tried and tested over a period of time and was able to purchase proper hormones from a linked site. The regime was for 6 to 8 milligrams estradiol per day, 200 milligrams of alsactone, 5 milligrams finasteride and 10 milligrams of Provera generic. A couple of months down the line, I have started developing breasts, which my wife is beginning to notice and gets very abusive. I deny it and say it is her imagination. My testicles have drastically reduced in size and erections are taking longer to achieve and difficult to maintain. This is not a problem, as sex with my wife is a thing of the past, and the surgery, which caused her disability, has left her with no feelings in her vagina. The glands behind my nipples are also getting quite large and very tender. I do not know how large my breasts will grow, but my mother was quite large-breasted. I do not have any sisters, but my 2 daughters have also been well endowed. I do not know if this has any bearing on final size. If the speed of development is anything to go by, and if they continue to develop over the next year or 2, I should not be too disappointed. I don't know if the amount of male development has a bearing on how much I will feminize, but my body hair is quite fine and fairly sparse, and my muscular development is not a lot more than appears on most women. My Adam's apple is not noticeable and my voice is fairly high-pitched for a man. I am often mistaken for a woman on the phone. Also, I have noticed that I have become very emotional and cry or get a lump in my throat very easily. A few months ago, before any hormone treatment, I never cried and didn't show any emotion. Mind you, it is not a bad thing, and I am probably a much more caring and sensitive person. Much more woman-like. Sooner or later I will have to tell her all. This will be the hardest thing that I will ever do. At this point she will have to decide whether she can live with it or make other arrangements, because I have now passed the point where I could stop it, even if I wanted to. Now I have made the decision, I feel much happier in myself and look forward to getting it out in the open where I can move on. I will be quite willing to carry on as her carer, but this must be on my terms. The hormone regime that I am on is proving quite expensive, probably about £130 per month. I will probably try switching to a Diane 35 regime, which should be a bit less expensive. However, whatever the cost, will be worth it. I will also call my 2 sons and 2 daughters to a family discussion and tell them all. I hope that they will accept what I am and not turn against me. If they do, this would distress me but not make me change my mind. I don't think it will become much of a surprise because my wife has not been discreet when she was being abusive, and I am sure that they must have heard when they were in bed. I know that this will be a very difficult and emotional time for all, but unavoidable. I will not make them decide between my wife and myself and would hope that she would give the same consideration. However, they are all adults, the youngest 25, strong-willed, and I think they will make their own decisions and not be influenced. I cannot live the rest of my life under these circumstances and feel I owe it to myself to follow my deep and uncontrollable desires. I have given up most of my life to my family and feel the years that are left are mine and will do what I need to reach fulfillment. At this stage, I do not know if I will go all the way and have reassignment surgery. I would like to, but do not know if it would be possible at my age. However, one step at a time. I have at least started on the road, and the next step will be facial hair removal and starting to dress in a more feminine manner and the removal of my testicles. I will also get proper medical advice, which I know I will have to if I am to progress to living full-time as a woman. This I am now determined to do. One advantage I have is running my own company, so employment is not a problem, and if the company maintains its current progress, I should be financially secure. I have some regrets, the main one not being honest in the first place and trapping myself in circumstances that restricted action. However, in the 60s it was a subject that was rarely discussed and little known about. I do wish that I had plucked up courage long ago and would now be living as a woman. However, it has not all been bad. I do not regret having children and love them all dearly. They have given us 8 wonderful grandsons, 2 each. I will update my story as things progress and hope that my story gives courage to others not to make the same mistakes and to follow your desires. Thursday evening, May 20th, I ran the mother-in-law home. Whilst I was out, my wife, who has become very suspicious of my breast development, searched my room and found a small amount of my hormones. As soon as I walked through the door, she demanded an explanation. I had no alternative but to confess that I was using them. I fully expected, at least, the normal abuse. Instead, she calmly said that if I want to become a woman, why don't I admit it? I had no alternative but to confess that I have always wanted to be a woman and knew that I was not a transvestite as I had previously told her. She said that if that is the case, I should get medical help. I phoned our family GP and have arranged for an appointment for Wednesday, May 26th, last appointment, as I told them it could be quite a long consultation. I was very surprised with my wife's reaction, which was not as I imagined. It proves that you should never prejudge or take anyone for granted. I can tell you that the relief is enormous. I dreaded having to tell her, as once the information is out you cannot take it back, no matter what the reaction. I have promised to talk it through with her after the appointment and tell her everything, no more lies or denials or hiding anything. I do not know whether she will be able to live with it, particularly when the changes really become obvious. However, this is something for discussion after Wednesday. We have also agreed that we need a family meeting with our 2 sons and daughters in private, without their partner or children, and fully put them in the picture. Hopefully they will be able to give the wife the support she will need and still find it in their hearts to forgive and accept me for what I must do. I have told her that I would wish to remain as her carer, if she is prepared to accept me, as I transition. If not, I will look at selling the house and buying 2 smaller places, near to each other, so at least I can always be on call. I can arrange for someone to call in on a daily basis to carry out general cleaning duties. In the meantime, I am starting to improve my fitness, appearance, and health. I have arranged for a cholesterol test on Tuesday, June 1st, in view of the length of time I was grossly overweight and the complete lack of exercise. I have been putting off the test previously for fear that the hormones and anti-androgens would show in the results. It does not matter now, as my doctor will have to know about my hormone therapy on Wednesday. I have started to walk a couple of miles a day, whereas I used to jump in the car to go a couple of 100 yards to the post box. I have arranged an appointment with the dentist to have my teeth improved. I have started to grow out my hair, which had started to recede. It is now getting quite thick and softer. It is possible that there may be some regrowth. I understand that hormones can have that effect. I will continue to update my story on a date basis as my chosen journey progresses. The first update will be after my Wednesday appointment. I also wrote the following letter for my wife to read whilst I was at the doctor's. It was probably a bit cowardly, but hopefully would help her understand and make our heart-to-heart a little easier. My dearest Lillian, I am dreadfully sorry for the upset and hurt I have caused you, and it was the hardest thing that I have ever had to do, even though you made it much easier by forcing me to admit it. I had planned to tell you and confess everything, but not for a couple more months and when it became too obvious to deny. Still, it turned out for the best, and my way would have probably been more hurtful for you. For that I will always be in your debt. You know, I do really love you, and I dread the thought that one day soon we may have to split up. I hope that we can work out a way to stay together, even as companions. I am grateful for your support and understanding, even though it was obviously very difficult for you, and I will be as open as possible in all further actions in the future. It is the least that you deserve, and I will need your help and support as time goes on, far more than you need mine. I am also sorry to have typed this letter rather than handwritten, but I am finding it too hard and emotional. At least this way I can keep leaving it and coming back. If there was any other way, without hurting you, I would have chosen it, but unfortunately after spending most of my life either ignoring it or fighting it, I could no more put it off than fly to the moon. Whatever your decision, I will always love you deeply and be there for you, no matter what. I hope that you can understand and forgive me, because I am doing what I must do. I hope and pray that I can remain as an important part of yours and our children's lives. I will be absolutely devastated if I cannot, but would understand and respect any decision you will all have to make. I would hope at the very least to remain friends. For many years I have not been really happy, and the depression I have felt is probably in part been the cause of my excessive weight gain. Do not get me wrong, I have enjoyed being a husband and father and would not swap any of you for the world, and I am absolutely nuts over our grandchildren. But I feel that I have devoted my life to my family, and what years I have left must be mine to follow my uncontrollable desires. This is the path that I must follow, no matter how long, difficult and painful, or whatever the cost. I do feel much more at peace with myself and am content that I have made the right decision for myself and hopefully, eventually for all of you. It was not an option to carry on as before. The situation was tearing you and myself apart, which would eventually affect the whole family. I know that it is asking a lot, but please try to be happy for me, because I am now doing what I have needed to do for a very long time. I will try not to cause any of you any embarrassment and will not suddenly start wearing dresses. The transition will be gradual, over a period of many months, even into several years, and the development that you have already noticed will be gradual and not be too apparent and can be hidden by wearing looser shirts. Please do not ask me to stop what I am doing. I could not, even if I wanted to. If it does start to cause you embarrassment, I will have to consider moving away. I will fully inform you of what I have been doing after my appointment with the doctor. No more secrets or denials. What has gone on in the past is in the past, and what is now important is the present and the future. Initially, I will be concentrating on improving my appearance, health, and fitness. Hence, the weight loss, long walks, and dentist. None of which can be a bad thing. I will not tell anyone outside of our immediate family, but would respect your decision if you want to tell your mother, although I would rather you did not, but I would not want anyone else to know, particularly my brothers, until the time arises that I would have no option. I would ask you to tell her that it is confidential and I would not be willing to discuss it with her. All my love forever, Mike. I will also be writing similar letters to our 4 children to give to them after I have told them what I am doing and fully explained everything. Hopefully, we can get together on Monday, after my appointment with the doctor and my talk with my wife. May 27th. I had my consultation with my GP yesterday evening. To say that I was nervous would be an understatement. The problem is that he has been our family doctor for more than 20 years and I did not think he would understand. After talking about my wife and family, he asked how he could help me. I blurted out that I had started taking hormones, which I had got on the internet and wanted my health monitored. To my total amazement, he was totally unfazed and very interested and supportive. He asked many questions of my past, my feelings, my wife's feeling, and came to the same conclusion as myself, that I had little choice in the matter. He examined me, took my blood pressure and said everything is fine. He has arranged for a full blood check when I go for my cholesterol test on the June 1st and told me to keep on with my current hormone regime until the results come back. He will then recommend any adjustments. He is also writing to Dr. Russell Reed, who apparently has a local practice, for a referral. He has also suggested that I go on to such sites as the Gender Trust as they are also supportive. He says there are many self-help associations that I might like to contact. His reaction could not have been better, nor could he have been more supportive. I was so relieved and grateful. When I got home, I had a long heart-to-heart with my wife. She was stunned with the hormone regime that I was on, not imagining that it would have been so comprehensive. She thought it would have been the odd pill. I think that this was the first time she realized how serious I am. She is not sure that she can live with it. We have agreed that we will carry on living in the same house for the rest of this year and see how it goes. She thought that my letter was very selfish and all about me. I said that of course it is, that is my point, but my letter was also about saying sorry and wanting to carry on looking after her and staying as part of my family, but if it is not to be, then it will change nothing. I think one of her main fears is that our children will cut ties with both of us. I have told her that they may not want to know me, but they would not reject her. She has also decided that she will not tell her mother, as she would broadcast it to all the family. We will do that ourselves when the time is right. We have agreed that we must tell our children as soon as possible, as the longer we leave it the harder it will become, and so we are still aiming at Monday. I hope that in view of my closeness with my children, particularly my daughters, that they will, even though reluctantly, accept the situation. We will know soon. Still, whatever happens, I am getting the medical support that I need. On Sunday was my eldest grandson's birthday party, where all the family go together. It was a very stressful occasion, particularly as there was the thought it could be the last that I would be invited to. I made sure that they could attend the next day, which they all agreed, and I reminded them not to bring their children or partners as it is too confidential. Monday, May 31st, our youngest daughter was the first to arrive. On entering the lounge, she broke down in tears. She was absolutely devastated. She thought that one of us was dying, and that was why we had called the meeting. I was heartbroken that I had caused her so much stress and convinced her that her mother's health had stabilized and that mine was improving since I had lost so much weight. When they had all arrived, I told them everything. The following is an outline of what I told them. This is the most difficult thing I have ever had to do. You will be very upset, hurt, disappointed, and probably not understand why, and I am dreadfully sorry to have to put you through this. Since I was a small child, I have known that I was different. It sounds a cliché to say, but I have always felt that I am a woman in a man's body. I have tried to push these thoughts into the background, but recent months they have overtaken me, and it reached a stage where I could no longer resist them. The condition cannot be cured, as it is probably genetic. Also, when I was born, my mother desperately wanted me to be a girl. She didn't dress me in a feminine manner but often remarked on the fact that I should have been a girl. This may well have been the reason why I was her favorite. Very little was known about the condition when I was young and was never spoken about. The situation was the same in the early 60s when we got married. I thought it would just go away. It didn't. I was able to keep it secret from your mother and only told her that I wanted to dress about 20 years ago. Your mother would not allow it as she could not tolerate it. I carried on in secret. Your mother caught me several times and we had almighty rows, normally when you were in bed. I am sure you must have overheard and had some inkling of what was going on. This has continued over the years. However, this was not the answer and would never have been enough. It was not about dressing. The feelings were getting stronger all the time and eventually would not be denied. Anyway, at the beginning of the year I decided that I must do something about it. I was always feeling depressed and getting snappy. I started researching on the internet and about 6 to 8 weeks ago and started on a course of hormone therapy, with hormones that I managed to buy over the internet. Your mother discovered it Thursday before last, and even though she was shocked and very upset, she made me tell her all and said I should go and see our GP. This I did last Wednesday. He was very supportive and is going to monitor my health and is arranging for me to see a specialist. This has been as big a shock to your mother as it has to you all. But your mother has been brilliant through a week or two that she must have felt that her whole world is falling apart. I desperately hope that you can be understanding and eventually forgive me and give me your support. Even if you can't, I would expect you to support and help your mother through this very difficult time for her. I will try not to cause you any embarrassment and the changes will be gradual over 2 to 3 years. I have written each of you a letter which I would like you to read while I go out. I will be out for about an hour and will then return. If you then want to discuss it further, I will try to be as honest as I can. If you need more time, ask your mother to ring and ask me to stay out longer. I will do whatever you all want. My younger son said that they would support both of us and that we have always been there for them and they would support me all the way. I handed them their letters, which were written in a similar vein to the one I gave to their mother, and asked them to discuss it with their mother. My elder daughter rang about 20 minutes later and said that they were waiting for a cup of tea. When I got home, they all gave me a hug and said that they are there for the both of us. They said they can guess how tough it has been for me trying to ignore it, and they don't think that there is the same stigma attached to it that there was when we were young. They also thought that I had been very brave, and they know how difficult it must have been. My whole family has been brilliant and their reaction went far beyond my wildest dreams. I don't expect it all to be a bed of roses, and I expect things to be strained for a while. However, with a bit of consideration on my part and not trying to rush things with them, I know that we can get through this. They are not going to tell their partners and will keep it confidential until we are ready to tell others. I reckon I am the luckiest person alive and have the best family that anyone could have. The next day I had my blood test and hopefully I will have my follow-up appointment with my GP at the end of the week. I have also spoken to my family today, and even though they are having trouble coming to terms with it, they assure me that they will support me totally, even though it is a lot to take in. I have told them that any questions they have I will try to answer as honestly and clearly as possible. Things seem to be going my way at the moment and I am feeling very positive about the future. I know that there could be many stumbling blocks in the months ahead, but it makes you feel so much less alone, and I am fairly confident that my family will soon be able to accept things. I am not so sure about my wife. However, if we have to eventually separate, I know that between my children and myself we can ensure that she will be properly cared for. Over the following weekend, things are strained at home. My wife is struggling to come to terms with what is happening, particularly the continuing development in my breasts. She is very tearful and there is very little that I can say or do to make it any easier. At least we are cuddling now. I think it is both something that we need. Even though I know that it is something that I desperately want, the future still scares me. I have also realized that in spite of all the insults and abuse I have taken off my wife over the years, she is still very much in love with me. This is why she is hurting so much. However, she is adamant that we must eventually get a divorce, even though the family wants us to remain married. She could not possibly live with me as a woman, let alone stay married to me. I have agreed with her that it is inevitable and I would not contest it and would wish to remain friends. She said that you can never legally change your documents and will always be registered as a male. I explained that the gender recognition bill has passed through Parliament and should soon become law. This means that when we are divorced and I have become a woman, I can have my birth certificate changed to show my chosen sex, as though I had been born female. This would also mean that I could remarry as a woman, should I so wish. This led me to think what a unique and wonderful position to be in to have the choice of sex. Obviously not an easy route to take, but one that will give me immense happiness and joy. I cannot wait. I hope that time will be a great healer and my wife will find it easier to cope. She has a loving family around her, who want to help, should she let them. I also think that my wife is trying emotional blackmail on me. It wouldn't be the first time. I believe that she thinks that if she piles on enough pressure I might stop for her sake. If she has not understood the situation and does not realize that I could not stop, even if I was putting my own life at risk. As the week wears on, my wife appears to be slightly more at ease and more willing to discuss it with me. I do need to talk and I think she does really. She has expressed concern at the rapid development of my breasts and asked if I was overdoing the hormones. I told her that the level I am taking is recommended in the regime I am on and that the doctor told me not to change it until I see him again, this Friday in the morning. I am secretly delighted at the development, which is exceeding my expectations. I am now filling a good 40A cup. I do not know how much larger they will get, but I have only been on this regime for less than 3 months. I have also decided that I must soon tell my 3 brothers. One of my younger brother's sons gets married in August and with my development, the secret will be out. They will have to decide whether they want me there. It is their choice as to whether they can accept it or not. I have the support of my own family and that is the most important thing. If they cannot support me, that will be their decision. However, I will not accept any condemnation or them trying to put pressure on any of my family. I would cut myself off from them immediately. I will take the coward's way out and write to each of them individually. I couldn't bring myself to tell them face to face. I found it too much of an emotional experience telling my own family to go through it again. However, my own family were too important to me to tell them any other way. We have discussed the divorce further and my wife is adamant that she will want a divorce. I have agreed that I will not contest it and will research quickie divorces. I have downloaded divorce papers off the internet and have found that it is fairly straightforward as there are no children involved and it is not going to be contested. The grounds / will be my unreasonable behavior, due to my transgenderism. It will take 3 months and cost about £240. It will not be necessary to involve solicitors and will be an amicable divorce. We will be able to remain friends. It seems that when solicitors become involved that divorce becomes bitter. Solicitors seem to encourage their clients to become greedy. I have seen it too many times. We have already decided that we will still be involved in the company and everything will be divided equally. The divorce will be started about September and we will continue to share the same house for at least until the end of this year. We have had our wills updated and we are still each other's beneficiaries and the children inherit on our death. The wills will need to be updated when the divorce goes through and again when I have completed my SRS. The beneficiaries will not change. Friday, June 11th, I have an appointment with my doctor. I overslept slightly and leapt out of bed quicker than I would have normally done and came over dizzy. Next thing I knew was waking up on the floor and being drenched in sweat. I rolled over and saw the door open and my wife's crutches thrown on the floor. I could hear her on the phone talking to our son Peter, saying that I was collapsed on the floor and she couldn't bring me round. I called out and said that I was okay and went downstairs where I promptly started retching into the kitchen sink. By this time my son arrived. The sweat was pouring off me. When I eventually managed to recover, I went up, had a warm bath, got dressed and had a light breakfast. My son then drove me to the doctor's, where we explained what had happened. He looked at my very recent blood test, which was very wide-ranging, including cholesterol and hormonal levels, and everything was as it should have been. The androgen levels had been reduced to a low level and the estrogens were at a reasonable level. Cholesterol was at 3.8, which apparently is very good. He checked my blood pressure, heart, and looked into my eyes and said everything is perfectly normal. He suggested that it was possibly a combination of mild food poisoning, caused by the scampi that I had the previous evening, coupled with getting out bed too quickly and also insufficient sugar over the last few days. Over the last 3 or 4 months I have cut right back on sugar, whereas before I was always eating sweets and had sugar on virtually everything. Peter asked if it could have been the hormones. The doctor looked at me quizzically and I told him that I had called all my children together last week and told them everything and how brilliant and supportive they are. The doctor said that having a loving and supportive family is most important and that I am very lucky. He told Peter that the hormone levels and regime are fine and that it definitely would not have been the hormones. Apart from pulling the muscles in my lower back, I soon fully recovered. It was probably a blessing in disguise as Peter was able to put my wife and family at ease over the hormones. They all thought that the hormones were to blame. If I had not passed out, Peter would not have had the opportunity of talking to my doctor. Peter and my youngest daughter are now fine with it, but my elder daughter is finding it harder. She asked me on the phone the other day how far I was prepared to go. I told her it must be all the way. I was not prepared to be half and half. This rather stunned her. She had not really thought it through that far. I told her that if she wanted, she should discuss it with her husband, but I would not want them to take it any further. She spoke to him that evening and she said he was fine with it and would keep our confidence. She said that was her best night's sleep since I had told them, and will now be able to accept it. Apparently my older son has accepted the situation the easiest, as he has a couple of friends who are gay and belonged to the 18+ club where many of the members were different. I don't mean that nastily. I would be the last to criticize anyone for not being the norm, whatever that is. I just think it gives him a better insight and understanding and makes him more tolerant. The family are now regularly talking to each other about it and the tension appears to be dissipating. I know that things can never be quite the same again and I can see awkward situations occurring. However, there is enough love in my family to see us through. My wife and I have been discussing the future sale of the house, and what we will probably do is to buy 2 properties fairly close together, preferably 2 bungalows, but certainly a bungalow for the wife and a house for me. The office would be based at the wife's bungalow. I would get a cleaner to call into her for a couple of hours a day, for the heavier cleaning duties and to do any shopping that she needs. The cleaner could also spend an hour a day at my place. I would have an alarm system installed in her place that would ring my mobile and also be diverted to my children's phones. They also want me on the alarm system. I will probably comply to give them peace of mind. My wife will not consider me continuing as her carer once we have moved to our new homes and I start changing over, but with a cleaner calling in 5 days a week, daily visits to the office, and I can find reasons to call in the office at weekends, we can give good coverage of care. The remainder of this year I will continue to improve my appearance, including electrolysis and, if necessary, hair transplant. My hair is very thick, except where I have started receding, but is already improving. I really do not want to start wearing wigs. I will also have speech therapy and makeup lessons. Hopefully much of this will be arranged by the therapist when I eventually get my appointment. My GP wants me to ring next week and arrange for a further consultation with him on July 2nd, and if I haven't heard from the therapist by then, he will put on a chase. In the longer term, probably 2 years from now, I will appoint Peter as MD of our company and take on a background role. By then I would expect to have been living full-time as a woman for at least a year and will then try for full SRS, even if I have to go private. I suspect that NHS treatment I would be looking at nearer 5 years. I am not prepared to wait anywhere near that long, even if I have to go abroad for surgery. I am really excited about the prospect of becoming a woman. I am even looking forward to the SRS surgery. We have 2 family get-togethers this month. This coming Saturday for my youngest daughter's baby's 2nd birthday party, and the day after a barbecue at home for my birthday. This will be the first gatherings of my family since telling them, and so this will be the first chance for us to judge how they are coping. They have been fine when we have seen them individually, but in a family group, things may be more strained. The wife and myself are getting a bit uptight about the family gatherings. It is the not knowing that scares. Friday night I had a bad dream, probably caused by the worry of the gatherings. I dreamed that I was out for my walk and my older brother pulled up alongside in his car. We started chatting and he asked was it true what he had heard? I said that as I could not read minds I wouldn't know what he had heard. He replied, "Are you thinking of becoming a woman?" I told him that I was not thinking about it at all. I am going to be a woman. We started rowing in the street and he ended up managing to turn my whole family against me. I woke up crying, thinking that my whole world was crumbling. You can imagine my relief when I realized that it was only a dream. But it was so realistic at the time. As it happens, our grandson's birthday went off well, with hardly any tension at all. Saturday night I dreamed again, but this time my brother called to my home. Before he had time to say anything, my wife tore into him and told him he wasn't welcome. He said that he had come to apologize and that the whole family was now behind me. Your subconscious mind can play strange and sometimes cruel tricks. Sunday's barbecue went off even better that Saturday. My children were able to mention it without any awkwardness and everyone seemed to enjoy themselves. Even my son-in-law, who knows about it, was fine. My wife is more at ease with it and can now talk about it quite freely. The only problem is hiding my developing breasts. With casual shirts they are very noticeable, but with ordinary shirts and vests they only show if you know they are there and are looking for them. How much longer I can hide them, I am not sure, but I have no intentions of strapping them down. I think that will be the time to let others know. I will then be able to show my breasts with pride. I am very confident of the future and am determined to control what happens and when. I am confident that I will have no problems convincing the specialist that I am a true transsexual and that it is not a recent feeling. Because I know that I have always felt this way. Even though I was depressed and unhappy for many years, I am not the suicidal type and would never consider taking my own life. My GP feels that I am a well-adjusted person and do definitely know my own mind. He also believes that I am a true transsexual. If the specialist is not prepared to prescribe hormones yet, I will still purchase them off the internet. I do not intend stopping taking them. My GP will still continue to monitor my health, and so apart from costing more, there is no more increased risk. At the end of part 3, I told of my nightmares prior to the family get-togethers involving my brothers. This led to my wife and myself wondering if they had heard anything. What triggered this concern was a couple of phone calls from my older brother, asking if there was any news and discussing health, particularly mine. I mentioned it to my elder daughter and she said that as far as she knew, nothing could have been said to any of them. She went on to say that it might be a good idea to tell them anyway, as it is starting to become obvious. I did not realize that she had noticed. I thought that I was disguising my breasts fairly well. She said that she only noticed because she was expecting to see developments, but not quite so soon. Apparently she has also been researching on the internet. I said that I would discuss her suggestion with her mother and also with her sister and brothers. My wife thought that I probably should, as it is better coming from me than by any other source. My elder son was quite happy about it, as was my younger daughter. The only one who objected was Peter, who thought that I should wait until after I had seen the psychiatrist, in case he refused me. I said that it was extremely unlikely that I would be turned down, as the GP would not have recommended me to the specialist if he hadn't been convinced. I think that he was secretly hoping that I would be refused and everything would revert to normal. I have made it crystal clear to him that it will happen and that this is the only way that I can be truly happy and fulfilled. He has now accepted it as a fact and has spoken to Hi twin sister, who confirms his acceptance. I did not expect immediate full acceptance from them, as it is obviously an awful lot to take in, but they are all eventually getting there. Anyway, on Friday, June 25th, I sent the following letter to all of my brothers. My dear brother, what I am going to tell you will shock you deeply and be very hard to take. It is going to be very difficult to tell, and I sincerely hope that you can understand. There is no easy way of telling it. I am sorry to take the coward's way out and write to all three of you, but it was so hard, deeply upsetting and stressful telling my own family. I could not go through that again. For many years I have been deeply unhappy, and since I was a very small child have been very uncomfortable living as a male. When we were young, very little was known about transgenderism and even less talked about. When I met and married Lillian, I thought the problem would go away, but unfortunately it didn't. Attitudes had not changed in the 60s, and it was still an unknown and unspoken subject. Once attitudes had changed and more was known of the subject, it was too late for me to do anything. I had the responsibility of a young family and would not make them a one-parent family. I decided that I would do something when they had all left home. Unfortunately, it was at about this time that Lillian became ill, and when she became disabled, I was her carer. Again, I could do nothing. Over the years, the feeling of unhappiness and frustration have grown stronger, and at the beginning of this year it got to a point where I could no longer ignore it. I had no alternative but to take action. I did a lot of research on the internet, with the end result that in March I secretly started on a regime of hormone therapy. The course that I decided on carried the least risks. Lillian discovered it in May and I had to tell her all. Obviously she was very upset about it, but made me face up to it and go to see the family doctor. Without Lillian's making me, I do not know when I would have had the courage to go for medical support. I will always be in her debt. I wish that I had the courage to confide in her much earlier, but as I am sure that you will realize, not one of the easiest of subjects to broach. I made an appointment with our GP, who much to my surprise and great relief was very supportive and quite knowledgeable on the subject. He arranged for full blood tests, is monitoring my health, which so far is proving to be okay. Blood pressure, cholesterol, kidneys, heart, etc. are fine. The cholesterol was the biggest surprise, as I had been grossly overweight for so long. Over 15 stone. I believe the weight gain was due to depression, as now I have made my decision. I have fairly easily lost 3 stone and have a target weight of under 10.5 stone. The doctor asked many questions and is convinced that I am transgendered and has referred me to a specialist to progress me further. He also confirmed that it was okay to carry on with the same hormone regime. I have told my children, but not their spouses. Even though they were deeply shocked, they have been very supportive and are with me all the way. You can imagine how relieved I am. I was terrified that I might lose them, which would have absolutely devastated me but could not have stopped me. My wife, kids and grandkids have been the one good thing in compensation in my life. Don't get me wrong, it hasn't all been bad. I do not regret my family in the slightest and love them all dearly. Lillian is struggling to accept it and is finding it very hard but is still being supportive of me. My whole family has been brilliant. I am so proud of them all. I hope that you can understand, and if you do, I would be happy to talk it over with you. If you cannot, I would be totally unwilling to discuss it with you. The decision is made and I have no choice in the matter. Any negative comments would only be upsetting and would be a waste of time. I do not want any of you to discuss it with my children or Lillian, unless it is just to give your support. I would not accept you trying to put any pressure on my family. However, I would be grateful for any real support that you can show them. They have had a hard enough time as it is and need support, not pressuring, and as I say, nothing can change what I have now started. I will probably have to give Gavin's wedding a miss as things are beginning to show, and I would not want to cause any embarrassment to the family or to myself for that matter. You and my family are the only ones that know, and I would like to keep it as confidential as possible for the time being. Even my children's partners do not know, and until they are ready to tell them, we would want it to stay that way. Particularly Liz, as I believe she would give Peter a lot of grief, and Jackie, as she is a bit of a gossip and may let it slip. We will have to get divorced, probably in the near future. I will not contest it and will be able to get a quickie. I would hope still remain friends. Also, we will still have a business to run. We will notify you of any developments on that side. There will be very little visible change for the remainder of this year, apart from the physical development. I will spend the time improving my appearance, developing the business, and getting mine and Lillian's lives into order. Selling and buying new homes and hopefully settling the court case against HHA. I will start full transitioning in the new year. I love you all dearly and really hope that you can understand and accept, as I do not want to lose contact with any of you. Your ever-loving brother Mike. We now await the phone calls. It is now the June 28th and no contact from my brothers, as yet. I will be very disappointed and upset if I do not hear and if they cannot accept. I would not willingly want to lose contact with any of them. I suppose it is still early days. They may have only received their letters today. 10 in the evening, I received the first call from my younger brother. He had only received his letter that evening. To say he was stunned was an understatement. However, he said that of course he would support me, as would my other two brothers. He said that he had always wanted a sister, and if I am as good a sister as I have been a brother, he would be more than happy. His wife called out that if Mike had been born your sister, my brother would not have been born, because my mother only ever wanted a boy and a girl and was convinced that I was going to be a girl. He did say that it will take some getting used to, but will always be there for me, no matter what I wanted. He asked if I had decided what I was going to call myself. I said that I would use the same initials and become Michelle Jane. After the call, my wife thought that Michaela was a nicer name and only required an "a" put on the end. I said that I would think about, although I prefer Michelle. My youngest brother rang at about 10:50 p.m. after receiving a phone call from my younger brother. He had not received his letter but had an emailed copy. He also was stunned but also very supportive. After a long conversation, he spoke to my wife. She had always got on well with him, even when he was a kid. He told her that any time she wanted a chat, to ring him. Next morning, my elder brother rang. Unfortunately, I was out at the bank. However, it gave him and his wife a chance to discuss it with my wife. He rang me back later and we had a long conversation. The outcome is that he will also support me. He said that he found my letter sad because he never realized that I was so unhappy for most of my life. Also, he said what really upset him was that he did not know what he could do to help me. I said that their support was all that I needed. It was so important to me. They all have said that they cannot really understand it, but if there is anything I want or need to let them know, they will be there for me. I am so pleased and relieved. All my closest family is giving me support. I am so very lucky. I know of cases where others in a similar position lose their families. I spoke to my eldest daughter next morning and she had spoken to my younger brother's wife and she had told her that my brother had spoken to my other brothers when he first received his letter and warned them that if they cannot accept it to leave me alone. He would not tolerate them causing me any upset. This surprised me as I thought that if any of them could not accept it, it would have been him. As it turned out, they were all immediately supportive. They also said that it would be like having their mom back as I do closely resemble her. If I can look half as good as my mother, I will not be disappointed. On Wednesday, June 30th, I had an appointment with the GP. He gave me a quick medical and was very happy with my progress. He had heard from Hillingdon HA who said that they do not have the expertise in transgenderism since the retirement from the NHS of their specialist and have referred me onto the Charing XGIC. My GP has also written asking for an early appointment. He said that if he does not hear fairly soon, he will refer me to a private practitioner. I hope it will be very soon, as I want to start electrolysis as soon as possible and I would rather go to a clinic that I am referred to rather than finding one on the internet. I told him that I had told my brothers and that they were very supportive and were also talking to my wife. But she is still struggling. He said the problem is that after 40+ years of marriage you think that you know your partner totally and to suddenly find out such a massive secret and one that is going to be totally life-changing will be incredibly difficult to cope with. He said that she probably feels let down and grieving for the loss of a lifelong partner. He said that with the support and love of such a warm and loving family, she may be able to eventually accept it and find it easier to cope. If she is grieving, it gives me hope that she will eventually start to come to terms with it and find it easier to cope. I sincerely hope so. August 3rd will be a difficult day. It will be our 41st wedding anniversary and at the moment I am not sure how to handle it. I do not want to ignore it, but at the same time I do not want to open wounds or remind her of how things must change. The doctor wants to see me again in 4 weeks. At the moment only my close family know of it. How long I can keep it a secret, I am not sure. It is becoming increasingly difficult to hide my breasts. My wife is also finding my breast development uncomfortable and hard to take. She is becoming increasingly distressed and nothing I say helps. I am trying to make sure it is not too obvious, but obviously she knows that they are there. I am already wearing tight vests and a loose shirt and I do not want to start strapping them down. In fact, I won't. It is more likely that in the near future I will need some sort of support. I do not wish to risk any damage to my breast tissue. Saturday, we went to my eldest daughter's baby's first birthday party at Milton Keynes. My wife did not want to go as she is finding it increasingly difficult playing happy families. We knew there would also be a lot of strangers there as well as my daughter's in-laws and the chance of someone noticing was increased. However, we went and things went pretty well. I got lumbered for doing the cooking on the barbecue. My wife said I was showing quite a bit and my 2 daughters seemed to notice. But I said that they knew to look, but I doubt that anyone else noticed. Mind you, we were glad to get home. Sunday, my wife seems a bit more relaxed. It is probably having got the family gathering out of the way. I think that we will have to sit down soon and discuss the near future and the best action to take. My body is developing much quicker than I anticipated. Presumably, being less developed as a male has allowed the anti-androgens and hormones to take effect more easily. Apart from the problems that it is creating, I am delighted with the feminization. I know that my GP is quite happy with the regime and that I am not overdoing it with the hormones. Hopefully this year I can get electrolysis underway, makeup lessons, and my hair gradually restyled, as it is starting to thicken up and improve. Then in the new year I will be able to dress full-time, and during the following year, go for SRS. This obviously depends on getting an early referral to a specialist. By that time I would have been on hormones for at least 2 years and had a full life experience of at least a year to 18 months. If the specialist will not prescribe hormones immediately, I will continue to put them over the internet. It appears that it is a cheaper option than by private prescription. A similar regime to the one I am on is about £200 per month and about £150 over the net. I do not believe that they are available on the NHS. We are having friends round for dinner on Tuesday. This is a lady who was in hospital the same time as my wife and her husband. She had a major stroke, and it has left her with similar disabilities as my wife. Karen and Patrick have remained good friends since. This will be the first time we have actually seen them since I started on hormones. She knows nothing about it. Hopefully everything will go smoothly. Tuesday morning. At least my wife is now talking to me about my future actions in preparation for changing over and not getting upset. I hope that this is the first stage towards full acceptance. We spoke about electrolysis, hair transplant, speech therapy, makeup lessons, and generally about the things that I must try to get either completed or well underway this year. She also asked if I was going to get my hair permed because I could not continue to comb my hair back. I said that I would allow my hair to grow longer and gradually have it restyled. She jokingly asked if I was going to join the Blue Rinse Brigade. I said I should not think so, but I would probably have it colored back to my original color. She asked if I could drink whilst on my hormones. I did not think that there is any reason why I should not, in moderation, but I probably wouldn't. I haven't had a drink for months, not that I have ever really been much of a drinker. This all leads me to believe that my wife is feeling easier over me. I sincerely hope so. Our friends arrived in the evening and everything went smoothly. We sat on the patio and had a couple of drinks. I had a shandy. We were shocked at how Karen's health had deteriorated in the last 6 months since we had visited them. When she was discharged from hospital, she was more active and mobile than my wife. In the past 4 years, my wife's mobility has gradually improved, and Karen is now almost completely disabled to the point that she needs a wheelchair and uses a disability scooter. We suspect that she has had several mini strokes since. It was very sad to see her. About 9:30 p.m. I went down the Chippy for a fish and chip supper. While we were sitting at the table eating, our friend's husband said that it is a wonderful story, the sort of thing you read in women's magazines. I looked quizzically at my wife and she grinned. I thought that perhaps she had told them. I looked quizzically at my wife and she grinned. I thought that perhaps she had told them. Later I showed him a photo of my brothers and myself. He said I am so lucky having a close and loving family. I asked him what story he spoke about earlier, and he said your success story of falling out with your employer, starting a business in competition, and really making a success of it whilst they are failing. I said yes, it gives us a nice warm feeling and a lot of satisfaction. After they had left us, my wife laughed and said that I thought that she had told them. I said that it did cross my mind. I must admit it would not really worry me if she had. The only reason we are keeping it confidential is for my family's sake. I am not bothered for myself. The ones that I really care about already know and are supporting me. Next morning I spoke to my wife and said that I was getting the impression that she was starting to feel a little easier about it. She asked why I thought that, and I replied that we were talking in much more intimate details about my change than we had before. She thought that it was possible, but she did not have much choice anyway. She has certainly been in a better mood the last couple of days. I said whatever the reason, I will always be grateful to her. Wednesday evening I rang my youngest brother, David, and he asked how I was getting along. I told him no problems, that I had seen the doctor again and he was satisfied with my progress. I told him that I had actually rung to ensure that his daughters did not discuss it at the wedding as it is still very confidential. He said he still cannot understand it but will obviously still support me. Thursday morning I had to go to a seminar with my eldest daughter, Karen, who is my financial controller, on VAT. Really exciting. On the way there we chatted over what was happening and the family's reaction. Apparently they are all quite relaxed about it. She said that she had noticed this morning that her mom seems much happier and fairly willing to speak. I told her that she was also talking to me on a more intimate basis. She is also pulling me up when my actions are not particularly feminine. I said that after all these years it is something that I have got to quickly learn, and I am very grateful for her input. In the afternoon, mother-in-law arrived. I went up to my office to work. Thursday evening my younger brother, Raymond, rang for a chat. Inevitably the conversation changed to my transgenderism. He still could not understand how something like this can suddenly happen. I explained again that this is not something sudden but has been with me all my life. He said that he had never seen any evidence of it. My mother had never mentioned catching me, and he was extremely surprised that I had been dressing in secret on and off through my married life. He said he hopes that I will tell them that after I have my appointment with the specialist that I will tell them that I was wrong and I am not changing. I said don't hold your breath, there is not a cat's chance in hell of that happening. He said that he has been researching the subject and thinks that I am brave to put myself through so much. I told him it is not bravery, it is a necessity, I have no choice. He said that he would prefer to keep 3 brothers but would settle for 2 brothers and a sister. I told him that I really look forward to being a proper sister. I thought afterwards, what a wonderful feeling, I am going to be a sister to 3 loving brothers. He has told his son and future daughter-in-law as it is their wedding we are missing. They are fine with it. I don't know if they will tell her parents, but it should not be a problem as he is a doctor. He asked what we were going to do about a home. I said that my priority was to get my wife settled into a bungalow. There will only be enough money realized to buy 1 house at the moment, and that will be for the wife. If necessary, I will rent. He said surely you will split the house 50/50. After I had run mother-in-law home, my wife and myself sat and discussed my conversation with my brother. The next day my son Peter called round and obviously wanted to talk to my wife. I went up to my office and did some work. They called me down and apparently they had been talking about Peter's concerns about my transgenderism coming out at my nephew's wedding, as some of his cousins now know. I told Peter that I had spoken to my brothers and stressed that their children should not discuss it or mention it at the wedding as my children's partners do not know about it yet and must not until my family is ready for it to come out. They assured me nothing will be said and that their children had been told that it extremely confidential. Peter then went on to discuss his mom's future living arrangements. We said that we were not going to make any quick decisions as we only have the one chance and we are going to make sure that it is the right one for both of us and the company. Peter suggested looking for a bungalow without buildings that could be turned into living accommodation for myself and an office. If it was big enough, he would sell his house and move his partner and children there. My wife said that she could not live that close to her, it would end in rows, particularly when she knows about me. She could not resist sly digs. Peter said that if that happened he would throw her out, as they are divorced, and he would not remarry her. I said that if their relationship breaks up because of them, that is down to them, but could not have it on my conscience if it broke up over me. The family still want us living close together so that they can keep an eye on both of us. In the last few days my wife's mood seems to have been up and down, and last Sunday she really started to have a go at me, saying how due to my selfishness I have damaged the family. I responded to her and asked that aren't I entitled to some happiness after all these years, and it is because of that type of reaction was why I could never confide in her in the past. She apologized but said isn't she allowed the occasional rant. I said that if that is all it is and makes her feel better, carry on. Next day she was okay again. That day I went into the West End of London to carry out some surveys. It was warm and I did not wear a coat. A builder I met kept on giving me funny looks. When I got home I mentioned it to my wife and she said I am not surprised, you can see that you have breasts. Tight vests and shirts are no longer hiding them. The hormones appear to be working very quickly. My skin is softening, body hairs, particularly on my chest and nipples, are far less noticeable, even though they have never been that thick. My lips are thickening, I have some fine dark hairs growing on my head, and my waist, hip and chest measurements are changing. My weight is now down to 11.5 stone. I am still targeting at below 10.5 stone. But certainly the most noticeable change is my breast growth. I do not think that I can go on meeting customers for my company much longer. I will have to hand those meetings over to Peter. I also think that I am going to have to announce it generally in the near future. Another week or two, I think it will be impossible to hide. My wife has suggested that I should buy some aerobic bras as they may help minimize my breasts and give some support, which I am obviously starting to need. I wrote to my GP last Friday and asked that if Charing X were going to delay things, could he refer me to Dr. Russell Reed? I also rang and made an appointment to see him on Thursday, July 22nd. I went out yesterday, Sunday, July 18th, to Madeline's with my wife and purchased 2 bras. Apparently they are called strappy crop tops. She spent ages looking through the racks. When we left and was driving home she said, "I don't believe we just did that." I replied that you will never know what it means to me, this is the first time you have allowed me to buy anything feminine. She replied that she does not have much choice. When we got home I tried one on. She even adjusted the straps for me. It does everything that we hoped it would and was comfortable and feels very feminine. She says that we will go into Uxbridge this afternoon and see what BHS have and pick up a couple more. We purchased 2 more crop tops. She laughed and said it was just like it was when she took out our daughters to get them their first bras. It was very satisfying to have her help and support, and she seemed okay with me wearing it all day and going out with me while I was wearing it. I now wear them all the time. She has been much more cheerful over the last few days, and I believe she is at last accepting the situation. Hopefully the grieving period is coming to an end. Tuesday, July 20th, Peter and myself had a meeting with one of our major clients on behalf of my company. I had to dress in trousers, shirt, tie and jacket. I hated every minute of it. I felt terrible and found it very upsetting. I could not wait to get home and changed. Still, the end of the year all my male clothes will go to the charity shops and I will never wear them again. As it is, I have already given most of my suits to the RSPCA shop along with trousers, jackets, etc. A lot of them were new. I have kept 1 suit and 2 pairs of trousers, and they are beginning to hang on me like sacks. Wednesday, July 21st, my GP speak that I rang to say that there was a letter of referral for me to collect and that I should ring Dr. Reed for an appointment, as it is a private consultation. I collected the letter and rang immediately. Dr. Reed is going on holiday, but an appointment has been made for August 24th. Wednesday evening, my wife was a bit moody and argumentative and said she has had enough and wants a divorce immediately. This morning she is fine again. I saw my GP today and he is pleased with my progress. He agreed that my development does seem fairly rapid but can't explain it. He said that I am fairly healthy and was I worried about it? I said no, I am absolutely delighted. I am now happier and more contented than I have ever been, am very positive and now really looking forward to the future. Particularly when I start my real-life experience. He said that Dr. Reed will be able to answer all my queries and tell me if my development is unusually fast. He wants to see me after my meeting with the specialist. He also suggested that Dr. Reed may be able to get some of the procedures on the NHS. He will support it if it is possible. July 30th. I had to attend a meeting in the city again this morning. I got my trousers, shirt, tie and jacket ready and could not even bring myself to put them on. In the end, I went out wearing an aerobic bra, light blue stretch denims, sports shirt and a pair of white/blue suede ladies trainers I purchased yesterday because men's trainers are so heavy and ugly and these are smart, lightweight and comfortable. You know, I felt smashing and very feminine. I do not know if I can last out to the end of the year before I change over. I hate the idea of wearing any male clothes. I do not even want to continue living as a male. Still, I must try as I promised my family I would wait. I am not sure why these feelings are taking over so quickly, I certainly never expected it. I am probably getting too impatient. My body and mind are surging ahead of what I can practically do at the moment, especially when you consider that I have been on hormones only for 4 months and only came out just over 2 months ago. Into August, and my wife is being very understanding and seems to be more accepting of the situation. However, I think that it is going to be a very difficult month. The August 3rd would have been our 41st wedding anniversary. She is determined not to celebrate it. She has also told the family not to recognize it. I have agreed but said that I cannot let it go totally unmarked. I have done her a card expressing my deepest regrets for all the hurt I have caused her, and ordered a huge spray of flowers. The wording in the card was as follows: "My dearest Lillian, I cannot let our anniversary pass without expressing my love and gratitude for the past 41 years and my regret for the way in which it ended. I am so sorry. I know you have said that our marriage ended on May 20th, 2004, when you made me confess to my need to become a woman. I fully understand, can accept what you say. I know that it has been terribly hard for you and that you must be going through a form of grieving. I realize that I destroyed our marriage that night. You have said that words are easy. They are not. I have cried many tears trying to write this. I find it very hard to know the right things to say, and nothing I say will really help mend that hurt. I hope that time is a great healer and one day you may be able to understand and perhaps find it in your heart to forgive me. I am grateful for the help and support that you have shown and given to me. I know some of it must have been incredibly hard. I am sure that your help made it easier for me to gain our children's support and not lose them. I cannot imagine what it would be like if I had lost my family. I know that I have been blessed with a wonderful family. Some people must think, how could I risk losing such a loving family? I had no choice. The need and desires got so strong, they were occupying most of my waking and sleeping hours. I was feeling very depressed and had trouble holding my temper in check. Since I started the change, I have been much more at peace with myself and know it is the right thing to do. I am now finding it increasingly difficult and distressing to wear any male clothes, even though I will keep my promise not to dress until the new year, and if I have to dress smart then I will somehow manage. My biggest regret is the unhappiness and distress I have caused my family and most of all the problems I have caused you. I will always be there for all of you and will do what I can to make it easier for you. If there is any way that I can continue to care for you, I would be proud to do it. I understand your occasional rants, and if they help, please carry on. I do not know what else to say or do to start to make it up to you. I know that I cannot stop what I have started. I will love you always, and the August 3rd will always be very special to me. The remainder of August will also be a strain. She has 4 hospital appointments, one of them an MRI scan to check that her tumor is still dormant. She will worry until she sees the radiotherapist at the end of the month. The 9th is Emma's birthday and Karen's anniversary. The family is getting together on the 7th. These family gatherings are getting quite a strain as my development is now becoming obvious and getting impossible to hide. I do not want to hide it. If I was just about me, I would shout it from the rooftops. Also, I have my consultation with Dr. Russell Reed on the August 24th. I suspect that she hopes that I will be turned down for treatment, and until I have my consultation she lives in hope, but she knows in her heart that it will go ahead, and as from January I will be living, working and socializing full-time as a woman. I cannot wait. Saturday, we started filling in the divorce papers and got them mostly completed. I said that I would deliver them to the county court during this week. We have given the grounds of my unreasonable behavior, i.e. my changing of gender. We should be divorced by November. The divorce will be very amicable and we will remain as close friends. We are planning to buy a bungalow for the wife with enough space to one side to build an annex for me. I can then be there if she needs me. Emma came around to see us on Sunday and bought in 2 cockatiels for the wife, which a friend of hers had rescued. I said that when we separate, she will have to have custody. Emma and her family spent the day with us, and so we had a barbecue and had a very pleasant and relaxing day. She certainly does seem much more at ease in herself. She was very quiet when we got up on the 3rd. After breakfast, I left her card on the side. She opened it but made no comment. However, she was absolutely delighted with the flowers and said many more apologies like that, and she will begin to believe that I really am sorry. I said I am sorry for all the upset that I have caused, but not for what I am doing. My elder brother Alan rang to see how things were going and if I had an appointment with the specialist. I told him that it is arranged for 24th of this month. We discussed the Sunday night ITV1 program on transsexuals. My dad is my mom. I said that Lillian's comment was, when they were talking about the depressions, increasing, quick tempers and the eventual feeling of having no choice but to transition, that sounded very familiar. We agreed that the law was cruel in the 70s, forcing couples to split in order for the transgender to be helped. We also agreed that the other transsexual was unfair to dump it onto his family, without giving them time to become accustomed to the idea. All considered, the day we would have been celebrating our 41st wedding anniversary went off fairly well. My daughter Karen was the only one who marked the day, and she sent us a friendship card for 41 years of friendship. My wife liked that. The aerobic bras are no longer minimizing my breasts. They are now starting to shape and support them and becoming more noticeable. I am delighted and very proud of them. Also, the more weight I lose, the more they are becoming noticeable. After all the publicity regarding Nadia of Big Brother and other high-profile transsexuals, I feel that this has helped raise the profile of the transgendered and is helping us be more accepted and easier to live through our real-life experience. Because of this, I am eager, really looking forward to it. I do not fear abuse, as I do not feel that there is now any stigma attached. I know that in the past, even as recent as the last decade, the transgendered have suffered violence, abuse, damage to their homes, insults, loss of employment, all due to ignorance and stupidity. Our sisters over the years have made it easier for us, for which we must be eternally grateful. Also, the gender recognition bill will be of immense help. This is one thing that we must be grateful to the government for, and probably Europe. Since going on to several different sites, I have made many good friends, and we do need friends, and we can do so much to help and support each other. I do not believe anyone could successfully transition without others' support and friendship. It would certainly be very lonely. I am finding the wait to the new year, before I can really get on, very frustrating. I do not want to be or live as a male any longer. But a promise to the family is obviously of utmost importance. They are fully supporting me, and I owe them that much. I impatiently await my appointment with Dr. Russell Reed in a week or so. At least I will know that I will have started to get things underway and can start electrolysis, etc. I will also get my hair styled more unisex and colored back to nearer my original hair coloring. I am sure that positive steps like that will at least help pass the months a bit quicker. I know that I could have found electrolysis practitioners on the internet, but I would rather wait and consult with someone recommended. I think the main problem is that I am developing far quicker than I ever expected or was prepared for. In spite of the frustration of waiting, I am now contented since I started on the hormones and am truly excited by the future. In the meantime, I will have to be satisfied with dressing unisex. At least the development will make it that much easier when I start living as a woman full-time. At least my company is still growing all the time, and in our first year of trading we will have doubled our budgeted target. I am confident that we will be financially secured and I will have employment for as long as I want it. After all, I am the managing director and major shareholder. Who could possibly sack me? My story will continue for several more episodes and will not be complete until I have had my SRS and am living an independent and happy life as a woman. I would have then achieved my lifelong desire. Writing my story has helped me immensely and has made me think out my actions and keeps everything in perspective. I have shed many tears whilst writing it. It brings back all the original sadness and also the hurt and grief that my actions must cause my family. But I know that they understand that if there had been any alternative, that I would have taken it. One thing that I have to look forward to is going clothes shopping at the end of this year. I have got to buy a whole new wardrobe. It will be absolutely brilliant. On the August 16th, my wife filed the divorce papers. I took them on her behalf. I was amazed at how simple it all was. The clerk checked through the papers, including the grounds for divorce, which detailed my transgenderism. She did not bat an eyelid, and in 3 months and 1 day we will be divorced. On the August 24th, I had my consultation with the therapist, Dr. Russell Reed, and what a wonderful person he is. He is so approachable and immediately puts you at ease. He said that he knows my GP well and sends his regards. He got me to talk about my whole life from childhood, through growing up to the present time. He kept jumping back to earlier times, I suppose to ensure that I was being consistent. The whole consultation lasted over an hour and a half. He confirmed that he had no doubts that I am gender dysphoric and that with my attitude and obvious comfort with myself, thinks that I will make a satisfactory transition. My interpretation, cannot remember exactly what he said. We discussed my current hormone regime and my planned changes and said that he could find no problems with it except to have the finasteride to 2.5 milligrams per day. He wrote out a private prescription for 4 months' supply of estradiol 2 mg 80 tablets Dufastin 10 mg 40 tablets cyproterone acetate 50 mg 120 tablets finasteride 5 mg 0 tablets. He has told me not to get it filled yet as he is going to write to my GP asking him to give me a NHS prescription. This will then save me about 360 pounds. I said that I was surprised that he could prescribe straight away, and he said that he is allowed to, providing that I satisfy one of three conditions. 1. I have been on hormones for at least 3 months. 2. I have experienced RLE for at least 3 months, or 3. Been having therapy for at least 3 months. He has said that he will continue to monitor me every 3 months. My next appointment will be November 8th. I now have an appointment to see my GP next Wednesday. By that time he will have received his letter from Russell Reed. I feel extremely positive about myself and really look forward to the future. I have never been happier. My appointment was postponed until Monday, September 6th, as the letter had got delayed in the bank holiday post. I received my copy on the Thursday. I was surprised at how much information he had got out of me. His impression was that I am gender dysphoric, is personable, stable, and give a good account of myself. I am not depressed or mentally ill. The effects of the feminizing hormones have been beneficial. He thanked my GP for prescribing on a shared care basis. I attended my consultation with my GP. He read his letter and said that he is in full agreement with Dr. Russell Reed's conclusions. He is more than happy to monitor my health and progress on a shared care basis. I said that Dr. Reed sends his regards. He said yes, I know him well, professionally. He wrote out an NHS prescription for all my tablets and said when Dr. Reed feels that I am ready for surgery, he will make application to the NHS. I feel extremely lucky to have such a caring medical team looking after me and know that at least my health will be closely monitored as well as my feminine development. The Thursday evening following my appointment with my GP, I had my family around and gave them an accurate update. They all read Dr. Reed's letter. I think that they were half hoping that I had made a mistake, but they now fully accept the situation. They have all also told their partners and are supportive of me. In fact, so much so my wife now has someone to speak to and knows she will get a sympathetic ear. My youngest daughter's husband. This is what my wife has been needing. I have recently been told of a theory as to a possible cause of transsexualism. Modern medicine in the US, as well as Europe and some other places on Earth, were developing cures to many of the plagues afflicting mankind. In some research center, possibly not unlike the one I served while working for Mount Sinai, a scientist first made a drug that was thought to prevent women from miscarriage during their pregnancies. The drug was called diethylstilbestrol, or simply DS. Although the drug was never tested adequately as it should, given the technology we have today, it nevertheless wasn't even examined to the standards of the day, was rushed into production and marketed throughout the world. It was prescribed to millions of women from to late 30s on, until very recently well into the 70s and in dosages well beyond anything rational. This drug has been found to cause cancer in both the mothers as well as the daughters of DS women, mutation in the daughters, and much less openly all manner of problems for the sons of these women. Receiving most all of the notoriety are the daughters of DS women, which received the bulk of the research funding, since the daughters developed a vicious form of uterine cancer. The sons of DS mothers also suffered and in different ways than their female peers, often in ways not outwardly apparent, and all too often if they were, it was simply treated as a societal stereotype, further compounding the lack of understanding, as well as the pain. DS is not the only drug, even the only chemical responsible for creating horrors such as this. Another well-known offending member belongs to a family of chemicals, similar and or different groups of organic compounds, all having similar properties for their intended uses. In many cases their applications were as pesticides, herbicides, and other various yet widespread uses. Its name is DDT, a wonder chemical. There is no place on Earth, from the highest mountaintop to the deepest places in the oceans, where DDT cannot be found today. In all the above cases, these chemicals are dangerous to the individual as well as the offspring and too many other species of life on Earth. In the case of DDT, it was most widely known to make the shell of eagles' eggs so thin, the chicks couldn't complete their gestational period prior to birth, the offspring died or were malformed. There are developmental stages in both male and female, inside the mother that among other things determine gender. Sex and gender, as you know, are very different qualities. Sex is mostly related to things we can see, external signs of maleness or femaleness. Gender, while perhaps more compelling to the individual, is nevertheless something that often cannot be outwardly seen. During the early development of the fetus, all children began as female. At a predetermined time, hormones produced by the mother, in this case testosterone, become awash in the fetus, the so-called testosterone bath, which changes female to male. Sex is determined by XY sex chromosomes in the male, XX in a little girl. Without this bath, it is possible to have a normal XY male fetus that nevertheless develops to become normal-looking and yet is born with a female gender, or sense of self. I believe myself to be one of these children. The name society gives this developmental difficulty, all of which carry terrible societal stigma, is known as transsexuality. It occurs in both biological males as well as females. In all fairness to other similar yet different problems of biological as well as gender-related developmental difficulties are transgendered, the intersexed, and some other less well-known groups. This is not to be confused in any way with homosexuality or same-sex attraction. To explain simply, I was born with a male body yet a female core identity. There is no known way to alter the mind to fit the body. Indeed, this has been attempted throughout history with zero success. There is no cure for those affected. It can only be addressed by the inverse, or changing the body to fit the mind. Those like myself often commit suicide if prevented to do so. In my case, I only regret doing so this late in life, and yet there's no other way for me. There is nothing sexual nor sensual in any of this. The information on stilbestrol and DDT could answer a lot of questions. I do not know whether my mother took it during her pregnancy when she was carrying me. There is a strong possibility, as I was born in 1942 at the height of the war, a very stressful time for a pregnant mother. My older brother was born just before the war started and the younger just after. My mother died about 17 years ago of cancer of the pancreas and stomach. My father was a great believer in DDT and often used it to treat the house for cat fleas, etc. So it is possible that I was subjected to both. Also in my career I have used dieldrin, lindane, tributyl tin oxide, copper arsenic, pentachlorophenol, carbon tetrachloride and other such noxious substances. However, as always using these as management, I would always use the proper PP, even though it is not likely to give 100% protection. I only used small quantities as I would have been training technicians. Most of the above are carcinogenic and also accumulate in the body fats. That is why they have been banned in the UK. Next to go will probably be bendiocarb. I do not know if this really caused my transsexuality, and I must admit it does not bother me. I regret all the wasted and unhappy years. I would not want to stop or be cured, even if it were possible. I am too happy and contented. My feminine character has almost totally submerged my male side, not that there was ever much to submerge. I started my electrolysis last Tuesday, September 14th. 2 hours under the needle. It was nowhere as painful or unpleasant as I expected. I go for my second time tomorrow, Wednesday, September 22nd. 2 hours again. If that goes as easily as last week, I will talk to Erica about going for 3 or even 4 hours next. My hair is now getting quite long and has a mind of its own. It is covering most of my neck and my ears. I am hoping to see my hairdresser Saturday to tidy it up. She is also a transsexual and specializes in transsexuals and our special needs. She will gradually color my hair and change the style over the next 3 months so that I start my RLE with a feminine hairstyle. We have arranged a family meal for the evening of November 27th in a private suite in a local hotel. It includes all my 8 grandchildren. My elder daughter said to the wife this is like a goodbye meal for Dad, before he comes out as Michelle. She isn't far wrong because I will be a woman as from the start of January. We will be at their house for Christmas Day as Mom and Dad. The gender recognition bill is now law and transsexuals are being asked to register as to whether they plan to take advantage. I have registered my interest. My story will continue for several more episodes and will not be complete until I have had my SRS and am living an independent and happy life as a woman. I would have then achieved my lifelong desire. Writing my story has helped me immensely and has made me think out my actions and keeps everything in perspective. I have shed many tears whilst writing it. It brings back all the original sadness and also the hurt and grief that my actions must cause my family. But I know that they understand that if there had been any alternative, that I would have taken it. I have just completed my 2nd session of electrolysis. Whilst Erica was working, she was chatting away and said that my skin on my face is very good and I have a lot going in my favor. She said that I am quite small with small hands and my hair is quite thick and luxuriant, and while I am lying on the couch hangs very nicely. She thinks that when I eventually, completely transition, next year, I should make quite an attractive woman and should look like an under 50-year-old. The hormones are already having a beneficial effect on my skin and hair. I should now see even more improvements, now I have completed my first 6 months of HRT. It is obviously up to me to make the most of what I have. What a boost to my morale. She thinks that at the current rate we should have broken the back of removing my facial hair by the end of the year, dependent on the amount of regrowth. Both cheeks are now mostly smooth, although a bit red and slightly swollen, but like the first visit should clear in 48 hours. She also started working on my top lip and has thinned the hair down. That was quite painful. Before I shave, it is very noticeable the areas that have been cleared. The skin feels nice and smooth on the cleared areas. She has suggested that next week's visit, she clears my top lip and chin. I told her that I will leave it to her entirely. We have decided that after another 1 or 2 sessions we will increase it to 4 hours. Erica is a transsexual and had her SRS 25 years ago. She is a lovely lady. Probably a TG is better at dealing with TGs as they know our needs and obviously have a better understanding, having gone through exactly the same. I know that you cannot generalize and some genetic women probably are sympathetic to our condition, but the problem is finding one. Erica has also recommended a hairdresser who specializes in transsexuals. She will be able to tidy up my hair, start to restyle and gradually color it back to my original brunette, so that in January I will be able to go out with a feminine hairstyle. Erica's story is very similar to mine. She got married in the early 60s and had a daughter. The only difference is she decided in the early 70s to do something about it. She had a hard time and took a lot of abuse. She has no regrets and now has her daughter living with her. She never mentions her ex-wife and I don't like to ask. I know that we will be great friends long after I have finished being tortured. She has maintained a close friendship with many of her clients. I see her again next Wednesday. Believe it or not, I really look forward to these sessions. I do not think that I am a masochist. I suppose it is another positive step towards womanhood. It is a wonderful feeling to see the hair disappearing off your face. Shock, horror. I put on 6 pounds over the last few weeks. I had a couple of strips of spironolactone left, so I tried taking those for a few days. I have already shed 3 of those pounds. It is water retention, probably caused by the hormones. I am seeing my GP in a couple of weeks and will get him to prescribe diuretics. The anti-androgens seem to have achieved their task and can now consider myself to be chemically castrated. Erections are now a thing of the past. After 6 months, the effects are probably irreversible. This is why it is important to be certain before starting HRT. I was and know that I took the right action. The hormones continue to have a profound effect. I can no longer hide my breasts and have become quite busty. I really look forward to wearing proper bras in the new year and tops that will show off my cleavage. My body hair has now completely disappeared and have quite a feminine triangle of pubic hair. My elder daughter rang last night and asked what I wanted for Christmas. I said everything. I will be buying a complete wardrobe towards the end of the year, also jewelry and makeup. She said give her some suggestions. I suggested items of jewelry or Marks and Spencer's vouchers. I said that there is no point buying clothes yet, because I do not know what size I will be. I hope to eventually get down to a 14. She said she will give me vouchers and a nice bracelet. I told her that would be wonderful. September 28, 2004, I had my third, 2-hour session of electrolysis. Erica concentrated on my top lip, that stung, particularly under the nose, cleared more off my cheeks and parts of my chin. Before I shave in the mornings, it is now becoming noticeable that the facial hair is being cleared. So far there has been very little regrowth. Friday this week I go to see Jean for my hair appointment. Wednesday we both had letters from the Crown Court to say that the grounds for divorce had been approved and that the decree nisi will be granted on the October 1st and will become absolute 6 weeks later. It was so simple to cast off 41 years marriage. Even though we both agreed that it was necessary for me to be able to fully move on, it was still upsetting. Friday I had my hair appointment. Jean trimmed and styled it and made it look very feminine. She says I need to grow it out a bit more but will not need any hair transplant or hairpiece. She said with a bit of brushing and back combing it falls into lovely natural curls. Back in May 2004, when I first saw my GP, he tried to arrange for me to see Dr. Russell Reed at his local NHS practice. After a couple of weeks he heard that he had retired and was advised to write to the local mental health center at Mill House. We heard nothing back and towards the end of July I found that Russell was still practicing but private. I asked my GP to refer me to him. I arranged a consultation for the August 24th. At about this time our local MHC replied and said they did not have the expertise and could not deal with it and that we would need to contact the Charing Cross GIC unit. My GP did this but I still had a consultation with Russell. Early September we heard from Charing X and that we would need a referral from the local MHC. My GP wrote back to the MHC and told them to get things sorted. They wrote to me, end of September with an appointment with the psychiatrist on the October 12, 2004. I attended the appointment and asked if he is a gender specialist, which he said he wasn't. He told me the appointment was to ascertain whether there were any underlying mental causes to my problem. He asked many questions and wanted to know my complete background, going back to when I was a child. He asked me about depression and I said I had always been depressed and unhappy, but had managed to somehow manage an effective life, probably by suppressing my feminine side, but when my wife became disabled the feeling of being trapped led to extreme depression, which took the form of overeating and excessive weight gain. I became obese and unfit and was making myself ill. I was slowly killing myself. He asked if I felt suicidal, which I never did. In the end, I decided that I had no option other than to sort myself out. This led to self-administration of hormones, until the discovery by my wife. He wanted to know my family background as well, mental and physical. He asked me how I felt now. I told him that I am very content and at peace with myself. I said I feel very focused and know exactly where I am going. He asked if I am still having to pay for my own hormones and told him that Russell had given me a private prescription and my GP had changed it for an NHS prescription. He said otherwise he would have recommended to my GP that he starts to prescribe. He finished off by saying that he is satisfied that there are no underlying mental problems and that I am well adjusted and a very stable person. He cannot see any real problems to my transitioning. He is now going to refer me to the Charing XGIC unit. I told him that I intend on going to keep on seeing Russell as he and my GP are looking after me on a shared care basis. He knows Russell well and approves of my choice. He said that he is one of the leading authorities in the field. He said he will see if they will see me as well as Russell. They may be able to do much of my care on the NHS. He asked if I had any questions that I wanted to ask him. I asked if I had seen someone before I started on my present path, if I could have been helped over my depression. He said that the course I had taken was the only one open to me. The condition is not curable by what is considered normal psychiatric practices. I mentioned my brother's suggestion of forgetting about myself and concentrating on my family, seeing a psychiatrist, having testosterone injections and a mastectomy. He said that the suggestion was thoughtless, cruel, and made out of ignorance. The most likely outcome would have been a complete breakdown or even suicide. I said that I already knew that was the answer, but told my family that I would ask for them. The consultation lasted about 45 minutes. At least I have it on good authority from 2 psychiatrists that I do not have a mental problem. On the October 5th we heard from the Uxbridge County Court that our decree nisi was granted on the October 1st and becomes absolute on the November 15th. On Wednesday, October 20th, I had my consultation with my GP. I told him of my consultation with the psychiatrist at Mill House. He agreed that if Charing X are agreeable I should see them as well. This could help with NHS funding. He weighed me and took my blood pressure and said the hormones were causing fluid retention. I had put on about 8 pounds. He put me back onto spirolactolone and within a week I had lost all the weight increase. I must now concentrate on reducing my weight still further. I have targeted 140 pounds by the end of the year. I wrote my wife the following letter. She is using moral blackmail and insulting language. I felt that I had to do something. My dearest Lillian, it is now about 5 months since I told you of my condition and I feel that you are still struggling to understand what I am doing and why. I do not know if you intend to, but you hurt me dreadfully every time you accuse me of my changing sex on a whim and that it is self-inflicted. None of this was done out of choice. It would have been so much easier to have been born normal, but that was not the case. I was born a transsexual. Also, it hurts and offends when you refer to my freaky friends. Transsexuals in the main are kind, intelligent, and caring people. Referring to them as freaky is calling me freaky. I am one of them, a transsexual. I find this most offensive and totally unacceptable. I could understand it if I was rude and offensive to you, but I am not. The dictionary definition of a whim: sudden, passing fancy. Is a lifetime of frustration, unhappiness, and growing depression a sudden passing fancy? Is excessive weight increase over the space of a couple of years and increasing poor health a sudden passing fancy? Are several months of internet research on transsexualism from November 2003 a sudden passing fancy? Is taking high dosage of female hormones from March 2004 a sudden passing fancy? Is spending over 10 hours of pain and discomfort having facial hair removed a sudden passing fancy? Is facing the possibility of ridicule and abuse a sudden passing fancy? Is the risk of losing family a sudden passing fancy? Asterisk is planning major surgery, with its inherent risks, a sudden passing fancy? It may be my fault, perhaps I have not explained the condition to you clearly. I will try to explain transsexuality a bit clearer. The condition called transsexuality first occurs in the womb. There are developmental stages in both male and female, inside the mother that among other things determine gender. During the early development of the fetus, all children begin as female. At a predetermined time, hormones produced by the mother, in this case testosterone, become awash in the fetus, the so-called testosterone bath, which changes female to male. Sex is determined by XY sex chromosomes in the male, XX in a little girl. Without this bath, it is possible to have a normal XY male fetus that nevertheless develops to become normal-looking and yet is born with a female gender, or sense of self. I believe myself to be one of these children. The name society gives this developmental difficulty, all of which used to carry terrible social stigma, is known as transsexuality. It occurs in both biological males as well as females. This is not to be confused in any way with homosexuality or same-sex attraction. To explain simply, I was born with a male body yet a female core identity or brain. There is no known way to alter the mind to fit the body. Indeed, this has been attempted throughout history with zero success. There is no cure for those affected. It can only be addressed by the inverse, or changing the body to fit the mind. Those like myself often commit suicide if prevented to do so. In my case, I only regret doing so this late in life, and yet there's no other way for me. There is nothing sexual nor sensual in any of this. I do not know if I would have committed suicide. However, I was becoming very unfit and breathless, and the chances are I would have eventually had a heart attack. In all probabilities, if it had not killed me, I would have had a mental breakdown. It had already started with the mood and temper swings. The psychiatrist at Mill House confirmed as much. My depressions and obesity could not have been helped by psychiatric therapy. The action I took was the only one open to me. This was also borne out by how easily and quickly I lost weight. I asked him about my brother's suggestion of forgetting about myself and concentrating on my family, seeing a psychiatrist, having testosterone injections and a mastectomy. He said that the suggestion was thoughtless, cruel, and made out of ignorance. The most likely outcome would have been a complete breakdown and probable eventual suicide. I could not avoid the eventual action I took, no more than could someone avoid suffering from serious illnesses or conditions such as multiple sclerosis, cancer, etc. None of us had a choice in the matter. Nor is it fair or accurate to call it self-inflicted. It is no exaggeration to say that ignored or suppressed transsexuality is life-threatening. I could no longer carry on the way I was. The depression and the feeling of being trapped in a body that did not fit could no longer be tolerated. You cannot possibly understand how bad things had become and how miserable I was. I was desperately unhappy. There are different degrees of transsexuality, from the TS who is content to take hormones and dress up, but does little else and would not consider surgery, to the TS who only total transitioning including SRS, electrolysis, plastic surgery if necessary, etc. She would need to appear as normal as possible as soon as possible. I fall into the last category. Electrolysis is an essential act. It is imperative that when I start my real-life experience in January that I go with a clear face, even though I will need regular treatments for some time yet to clear regrowth. Anything less is not an option. This is the pampering as you so casually call it. You and the family have got to consider what they would have preferred. Me as I was, possibly ending up dead or at the very least, having a mental breakdown, or the path that I have chosen, which has made me much happier and contented than I have ever been and having every opportunity of leading a very happy life. I made a promise, back in May, that I would delay dressing until the new year. However, I did say that the rest of this year I would prepare for the changeover. This included electrolysis and my hair being improved and gradually restyled. Also speech therapy and makeup lessons. It is becoming increasingly difficult to dress or think male and becoming quite distressing. However, a promise made must be kept. I am sorry if you think that I am rushing things, but things are moving along at the pace I advised when I told our children. I am not the same weak person that you used to be, able to browbeat into doing as you will. The released person is much more focused and determined. I will be as ready as possible to start my RLE in the new year, hopefully without causing the family any embarrassment. This would not be possible if I had allowed you to sway me and delayed the electrolysis. Hopefully a few more visits, I should be able to reduce the frequency. I will also probably send a revised copy of this letter to our children. Perhaps it will help them understand transsexualism a bit better. I hope so. It is important to understand that nothing will stop what has now started, and I hope that eventually that you will see that I had no choice in the matter and that I will be much happier and fulfilled. In under 10 weeks I will start having my documentation changed and will start officially living under the name of Michelle. As you know, the divorce was the first stage in this process. For this I am truly grateful to you. I know it has not been easy for you. I hope that I have not hurt you too much, but there was no other way. Your constant remarks were really hurtful, but I feel made out of ignorance of the condition. People can get aggressive or make unwarranted comments on things they fear or do not understand. I hope that the condition is now a little bit clearer. I know you will never totally understand. You need to be transsexual to know what it is like. The unhappiness, frustrations, depression. Having to live a life for so many years you know is not right for you, just because that is what society demands. Having to suppress your true self. I will love you always and hope that you and our children can be happy for me. I do not think that you have ever been really happy with me. My condition prevented me from ever feeling fulfilled and never felt like a real husband. You must have sensed things were never really right. My true self had been suppressed for too many years. We had become more of a habit. I know that I could never have been happy living the way we were. Arguments would have become much more heated, possibly violent, and we would have ended up hating each other. The transsexualism took control and prevented that from happening. But what is true and will never change, in spite of my own unhappiness, I have always loved each of you deeply, as well as the grandchildren, and have always done my best for you. However, whatever happens, if you ever need me, I will be there for you, as I will always be for the children. No matter what occurs in the future, nothing will diminish my love for my family, and I will love all of you always. Mike, I believe that it has just occurred to her that time is running out and that within a couple of months Mike will no longer exist and Michelle will take his place. Mike has already gone except in name only. She is making comments, such as, how can you leave a cripple just to do your own thing? I told her it was her choice. I offered to stay and care for her, but she said she could not live with me dressed as a woman. I said I would not be dressed as a woman, I would be a woman and dress appropriately. I pointed out it was her choice, and did she really expect me to sacrifice the rest of my life to her? That is something I would or could not do. She is also threatening to put herself into sheltered housing, hoping the children will put pressure onto me. They know the situation and it cannot work. In the past, she has always got her own way by browbeating and moral blackmail. I am not the same weak character that I was, and it can't possibly work. I am now focused and have my future mapped out. Nothing can stop it from happening. I have now completed 6 two-hour sessions of electrolysis. About half of my facial hair is now cleared. I was becoming concerned and upset at not hearing from my brothers, since I rang them on August 25th to tell them of my meeting with Dr. Russell Reed. I know that my elder brother Alan had spoken to my daughter Karen a couple of times since then and inquired about me. I told her that it would be nice if he asked me. She passed on my message. She got the impression that they were waiting for me to ring them. I sent them all emails to say it would be nice to hear from them, and I know that I could ring them, but that would not dow their support. Alan and David emailed back to say that I owed them hundreds of calls, and Raymond said that he isn't phoning because he knows his calls end up upsetting me. I sent them all the following email: "My dearest brothers, I have written this because I can put my thoughts into writing better than I could express them. I can also explain myself and deepest feelings without interruption, which would break my train of thought. Firstly, I agree that I perhaps have not phoned you over the years as often as I should. This does seem to be a Dibble brother failing, but we know that we have always been there for each other, if needed. David has probably been the most regular at phoning, followed by Alan, and it is disputable who is worst out of Raymond and myself. However, that was in the past and circumstances have changed dramatically. As I said in my previous email, I last spoke to any of you on August 25th to update you on my consultation with Dr. Russell Reed. Alan, you assume that you have rung me since. I know you haven't. I told you that Russell had given me a private prescription and had also written to my GP to suggest that he prescribes on the NHS. I was to see him about a week later. You haven't had an update since. I could keep ringing you to give updates, but you say you do not know what support I need. That is the support. A phone call to see how I am would be most welcome and would make me feel that you do care. Me ringing you to tell you that I am okay tells me nothing. I know in my heart that you do care and you are only concerned for me and would be there if I need you. I know that you are terrified of what the future holds for me. It is a lonely path that I tread. Unless you are transsexual, you could not possibly understand it. I also know that you would like me to reconsider, but if you really understood the condition, you would know that that is not possible. Do you honestly think that I would have started on this route if there was any other choice? I face several years of pain, deeply upsetting my family, possible rejection. Not something to be undertaken out of choice. I am certainly not willfully or selfishly undertaking this path and know in my heart that there is no other option open to me. I would not have deliberately done anything to upset or hurt my children. I love them too deeply for that there were two stark choices, me either probably dead or living my life as a woman. My obesity, failing health, and deep depression and unhappiness could not be cured by psychiatric therapy, only by the action that I took. This has been confirmed by the two psychiatrists that I have seen, the last one the week before last. The second psychiatrist that I saw was an NHS psychiatrist from the Hillingdon Health Authority. There would have been no financial gain to influence his decision and was able to give an honest assessment. He agreed entirely with Dr. Russell Reed, as my GP does. I am getting support from the NHS. On the positive side, I am much more content and happy in myself and know that I am doing the right thing. I am even confident that I will live a full and contented life. As it was before, my future looked pretty bleak, with probable heart problems and a breakdown. This is not an over-dramatization, and it is something I honestly believe. I know you would also like to see articles by transsexuals making a case against transitioning. I doubt that they exist. If anyone was to write such an article, the chances are that they would not be true transsexuals. The overwhelming need of transsexuals is to become and live as a woman. For the body to match the brain. The brain cannot be changed to match the body. Statistics say that SRS is the most successful of medical interventions. I know that you think it is self-mutilation. Is open heart surgery or the removal of a tumor mutilation? They are medical procedures to correct defects. SRS is a medical procedure to correct a life-threatening birth defect. I did say in my original letter that if you could not support me, I did not want to hear from you. That was clumsily put. What my intentions were that if you could not support me, I did not want you talking negatively to my children. They are finding it hard enough already, without having others' fears put on them. For myself, any negativity would not make a scrap of difference. The die is cast and nothing can change it. I would love to speak to all of you and try to put your minds at rest and look forward to hearing. I will ring you on a regular basis to give any updates. I do not think that the public aversion to transsexualism is anywhere near as hostile as it used to be. There has been much publicity in the media, surprisingly, much of it positive. In fact, one of the most helpful characterizations has been Haley in Coronation Street, where her character has been very sensitively played. Also, Nadia in Big Brother. That article I sent you was written in the USA, where they are behind us in acceptance. We have the Gender Recognition Act that gives us protection. I hope that this letter does not offend or upset you. That is far from my intentions. It is an attempt to explain myself, and the last thing I ever want to do is alienate myself. As I say, I would love to hear from you and start regular phone calls. Even though some of your comments do hurt, I know that they are made out of lack of knowledge and understanding of the condition and fear for my future, but won't make me feel any less for you. It will happen. I will start to live as a woman in the new year, getting my documentation officially changed, and will live under the name of Michelle. The change will not be instantaneous, but over a few weeks or even months, to help my family, particularly Lillian, for whom it is probably the hardest. I love you all deeply and nothing can change that. Mike Allen rang me Friday evening and we had a long talk. He fully accepts that I am fully committed and will try not to be negative about it. If the occasional phone call is all the support that I look for, then that he will do, and if ever I needed anything he will be there for me, as will all my brothers. I told him that my previous conversations with Raymond, he appeared rather hostile. He said that he isn't hostile but is very upset and is worried for me. He is taking it much harder than the other two. Alan said that when Christine, his wife, read the email, she broke her heart and told Alan that he must be seen to be supporting me and didn't realize that I had been so dreadfully unhappy. David sent me an email and will ring me during next week. Monday, today, I went to my GP's clinic for a blood test of which the results should be in by Wednesday, ready for me to pick up for Dr. Russell Reed for my appointment on the November 8th. Thursday, I received the results of my blood test, and according to the clinic, everything is okay. I looked through the printout, but it does not really mean a thing to me, except that everything appears to be within range. The important thing is that my cholesterol remains low. I see Dr. Russell Reed on Monday and will take a copy of the printout. It was him that requested it. I will also be asking him about changing my name legally to Michelle and all my documentation, because that is who I shall be as from January 1st, 2005. I told my mother-in-law yesterday of my transsexualism. She is an 80-year-old and my wife kept on putting it off. I told her that we must tell her and it is too easy to keep making excuses. She said, "You tell her then." That is what I did. I said to her that she knew that we were having a lot of problems last year. I said that I was very depressed, was abusing myself by overeating, started to feel ill and was going on towards a probable heart attack. I was also getting very bad-tempered and would not have been long before I started to become violent. She said that she had noticed and was worried about it, but things started to improve, except she was concerned about the amount of weight that I had lost. I said it was due to a condition that I had suffered from birth. I asked her if she had heard of transsexualism. She said she had, and that is even though you are male you feel female. I said that she is basically correct and said that is my problem. The suppression over all my life had become intolerable, and when her daughter became disabled, this added the extra problem of feeling trapped. Transsexualism cannot be cured by therapy, only making the body fit the mind. The mind cannot be altered to fit the body. I took the only option open to me and have started the procedure of changing to my proper gender. I am now being monitored by my GP and a gender psychiatrist. She said that she had known for a long time that I needed to dress, as some years ago, after my wife and myself had had a serious row, she told her mother and stepfather that I dress up to try to turn them against me. Apparently, they told her that I cannot help myself and if I needed their support it would be there for me. My wife never told me of the conversation. She said that she is pleased that I have told her and she hopes that she lives long enough to see me fully become a woman. She asked what name I am going to use and I told her Michelle Jane and she thought that was a lovely choice. She said that I had been a wonderful son-in-law and cannot find any fault with me. I thanked her for her support and the way she has taken it. She said that she knew a transsexual years ago who lived in Chelsea and she was a lovely lady. She said she sees much more than that in Chelsea. She said that she had noticed the bruising on my face and was worried that I might have leukemia. That is what her husband died of and he kept on getting bruises. She had also noticed my developing breasts. She also said that when she first met me, I was only 18, very small, quiet and shy and she thought that I was a little bit effeminate. When she was told of my dressing she remembered back to her first impressions. My mother-in-law has totally surprised me and I know that she is now completely behind me. This month, November, I have had another blood test. I picked up a printout to take to Dr. Russell Reed for my consultation. Everything is within the normal range except the prolactin, which is very high, probably caused by the cyperterone acetate, which I am no longer taking. My consultation went very well and Russell gave me forms and letters to get my name change underway. He has also written to Hillingdon Hospital for me to see the speech therapist for help and advice to feminize my voice and improve my confidence en femme. I have put the application into my solicitor to change my name officially to Michelle Jane, much nicer than Michael James. It should take effect as from December. On Monday, November 22nd, I had my 9th 2-hour session of electrolysis. Erica concentrated mainly on the under chin and neck area. It has bruised my throat, but my whole face is starting to feel quite smooth now. She says that I am responding well and am one of her easier patients. I am absolutely delighted with the progress and a couple more sessions and she will have completed a complete sweep. It will then be treatments for regrowth. There is very little so far. Saturday, November 27th, I took my whole family for a family meal at a local hotel. I booked a private function room and we had a very pleasant meal. All 18 of us. This was my last chance to treat them as their father. After my 10th session of electrolysis, last Friday, December 3rd, I arrived home and the documents confirming my legal name change, by deed poll, had arrived. I am now legally Michelle. I have pre-booked 2 more sessions before the end of the year. Saturday, I went for a second hair trim and style. My hair is now covering my ears, grown quite thick and according to Jean, my hairdresser, is now getting quite lush and starting to regrow where it had thinned on the crown and started receding. It now easily covers those areas and looked very feminine. I asked about having my hair dyed back to the original brunette. She advised against it as it is growing so quickly, I would have to go to her every 2 weeks to have my roots done. She has said she will give it a color rinse in January and suggests blonde will be much better. That is what I will do. When I arrived home, a letter had arrived from Hillingdon Hospital with an hour's appointment with the speech therapist for Monday, December 13th. Amazingly quick for the NHS. I feel one very lucky girl. After a lifetime of unhappiness and depression, things are going so well. I am getting plenty of good professional help, both privately and from the NHS. I am also responding very well to my hormone regime with pleasing development, and my hair and electrolysis are better than my highest expectations. The only cloud is my wife's, or to be more accurate, my ex-wife, growing bitterness and sometimes nastiness. She is also trying to use our children against me. She must accept that whatever she says or does, nothing will stop my transitioning, which is now only a few weeks away. I have been spending a lot of time thinking of my past life and realized that most of it was false, a total sham and one that I made few decisions on. I am now fairly certain that if my ex had a happier childhood and hadn't run away from her mother's home when she was 17, the chances are that she would not have wanted to get married when we were so young, and I would have realized the extent of my problems. Her mother was spiteful and would not hesitate to hit her and showed her no love. This was partly inherited by my wife and was the reason I could not leave my children as a one-parent family. She had a furnished room at my aunt's. I can now see the attraction of setting up a home, with someone else paying most of the bills. We married in 1963, when I was 21 and my wife 18, on reflection much too young. We started a family 2 years later. She had very irregular periods and only every 3 or 4 months. In about 1964, the local women's hospital was at that time in the early experiments of a fertility drug and put my wife on this as an early case. There were 8 women in this group and only 2 became pregnant, my wife and another expecting twins. The twins miscarried early and my wife went into premature labor at 26 weeks. A girl and a boy. The boy lived 12 hours and the girl for 24 hours. This was a devastating time. Analyzing this period, I now realize that starting a family was never discussed with me and I was just swept along. Even when she was put on the same course a year later and eventually gave birth to a boy. 3 years later she had twin girl and boy by the same method. At no time did the hospital discuss the treatments with me or seek my opinion. 8 years later we had a girl, without any help, by accident, which according to the hospital was not possible without medical help. I do not regret my children but do regret my weakness and resent the way in which I was trapped into a long and not very happy marriage. I am not saying it is anyone's fault in particular and must take a lot of the blame on myself for being so weak. Then my wife's illness caused me to put leaving on further hold and my wife's disability for the decision to do nothing. The black depressions, the feelings of being trapped, the mood swings and fits of temper, the constantly feeling of being ill because of gross obesity caused the transsexuality finally to take total hold that made me take my future in hand and take positive action. I do not know if the outcome would have been different if my wife had shown a little bit of gratitude, discussed her disability and not assumed that I would be her carer for the rest of our lives. She showed no interest in my feelings and it has really occurred to me how selfish she has been over the years. I actually doubt it had been getting stronger all of my life and in all probabilities it would have eventually taken over. I will keep my promise and stay with her until her compensation case is settled and then set up my own separate life. Even now she is trying to control me and my changing. She tries to give me a hard time over electrolysis, my hair and virtually everything that I do towards my imminent changeover. She accuses me of doing it on a whim, pampering, breaking up the family, deserting a cripple and has also tried turning my children against me. All to no avail. My children know what she has been like over the years and were surprised that I had put up with her for so long. They couldn't leave home quick enough. I am shocked at what I have been blocking off from my mind and resent all those wasted years. Still, that was in the past. There is nothing I can do to change that but have a wonderful future ahead. Things have moved quite rapidly since I started the hormones in March this year. My body is responding well to the hormones and already I have quite decent-sized breasts. It will certainly be easier to show them than it is to hide them. At the moment my weight has stabilized at 150 pounds, though my face has now started to fill out nicely. I am now able to get into a UK size 14 ladies denims. The only male item of clothing that I do wear now are short-sleeved colored shirts. They will be outed in the new year. My hair is thickening, definitely regrowing where it had receded and feels much softer and silkier. It has lost that coarse dry male feel. It is also much longer and falls into its natural curls. Jean says that in the new year she will give it a blonde color wash and give me a nice feminine style. Erica says that I am responding well to electrolysis, with little regrowth, and should finish the first sweep in a couple more visits, the next being next Tuesday, December 21st. My GP and therapist are helping all they can, and I was referred to a speech therapist on the NHS. The speech therapy was an eye-opener. I will give you a basic rundown of what happened. She showed me diagrams of the throat, neck muscles, voice box, and everything that basically happens when you eat, swallow, breath, speak, etc. She showed how easily the voice can be damaged, how breathing properly affects the voice, the difference between the male and female voice, and how to look after it. She then proceeded to check my vocal cords for damaged voice frequency range during speech, length of time for holding, humming, and breathing. My vocal range was 128 Hz up to 290 Hz, hers was 90 Hz up to 260 Hz, so mine was slightly of a higher pitch, even though she is a genetic woman and does not have a particularly deep voice but does have a slightly more musical voice, one of the differences, I believe. There has been no damage to my vocal cords, so she will not have to spend time on exercising for repairs, but my breathing is terrible, which I must work on. I have to use all my lungs rather than a small part. She has given me a whole load of exercises to do, including neck, chest, and breathing exercises, and to practice talking into a tape recorder as if I was speaking to a small child in a gentle, slightly musical manner, practice and playback. I will see her again on the January 24th, next year. The appointments will keep on until it suddenly clicks into place and my speech is feminine. She doesn't think I should have too many difficulties as my voice is already fairly high and quietly spoken. She does not teach you to speak any higher than normal, as this sounds unnatural and puts extra strain on your voice. Apparently, I am one of the most mature transsexual patients she has dealt with, but bring more maturity. Most younger transsexuals, when they start dress and go out, are not prepared and they are spotted immediately, and some never really recover from the ridicule. Whereas, we more mature transsexuals spend months in preparation and stand a much better chance of living as women. Bad wigs, 5A lock shadow, and male voices do not help. Next step is to arrange makeup lessons and being shown the best colors and makeups to make the most of what I have. I really feel that in the new year I will be ready to start going out as Michelle. Sorry to go on so long, but it occurred to me the amount that I have transitioned and how relatively easy it has been in a fairly short period. I know that I will be ready for surgery in 18 months and cannot wait. I really appreciate all the help that I am receiving and do feel a very lucky girl. All the past unhappiness and frustrations is exactly what it is, in the past, and that is where it will stay. None will be allowed to spoil my future. My story will continue for several more episodes and will not be complete until I have had my SRS and am living an independent and happy life as a woman. I would have then achieved my lifelong desire. Writing my story has helped me immensely and has made me think out my actions and keeps everything in perspective. I have shed many tears whilst writing it. It brings back all the original sadness and also the hurt and grief that my actions must cause my family. But I know that they understand that if there had been any alternative, that I would have taken it.